When Amber Heard lost the defamation trial against Johnny Depp, she had a deal in place with insurers that would ensure that they would pay Depp the damages awarded to him in case she lost. As we all know, that hasn't happened, with several incredible plot twists marking the story, and the most recent development might be the most damning of all for Amber. Keep watching to learn about what's going on. Amber Heard's net worth has been fluctuating around -$6 million. This, however, does not excuse her from paying her legal bills to her attorneys or the insurance companies that purportedly assisted in covering the costs of the defamation trial's opening phase. The Aquaman actress, who is drowning in debt, appealed the defamation trial's judgment, but that is still up in the air. According to news reports at the time, the dwindling fate of Amber Heard appeared even more precarious since she allegedly owed nearly several million in debt to her legal team. Elaine Bredehoft, who was Heard's lawyer at the defamation trial held at Fairfax County, had previously made it amply clear that the actress would not be able to bear the charges payable to Johnny Depp that the court had declared in the aftermath of the verdict. Bredehoft also came forward announcing that Amber Heard was yet to pay her legal team the amount owed. The insurance companies that had stepped in also added to the mounting problems for Heard. According to reports, the actress's insurance company, New York Marine and General Insurance Company, filed a lawsuit asking to not be held accountable to cover the actress's legal fees and trial expenses, since Heard's liability is caused by the willful acts of Heard. She denies it, but she's also said otherwise.
So what, if any, ill will or bad intentions did you have or intend against Mr. Depp by assisting in writing, giving your name to this op-ed, and in publishing it?
None. It's not about Johnny. The only one who thought it was about Johnny is Johnny. I know how many people will come out and say whatever for him. That's his power. That's why I wrote the op-ed. I was speaking to that phenomenon. How many people will come out in support of him and will fall to his power? He is a very powerful man, and people love currying favor with powerful men.
The Depp versus Heard trial featured salacious and surprising testimony that riveted the country. But arguably the most surprising aspect of the case was that Ms. Heard's homeowner's policy insurer, Travelers Commercial Insurance, paid for her defense against Mr. Depp's claims. The vice president for Travelers was even spotted multiple times in the courthouse with Ms. Heard one. While it is not unusual for a homeowner's policy to provide coverage for liability claims against an insurer, it is noteworthy that Ms. Heard's insurer did not rely on the policy's intentional acts exclusion to deny coverage, given the nature of the allegations against her. Most homeowners' policies provide both first-party coverage and third-party or liability coverage. In Ms. Heard's case, she was able to rely on the liability coverage provided by Travelers in her homeowner's policy for a defense against Mr. Depp's defamation claim. In the ongoing case between Amber Heard, New York Marine, and General Insurance Company, a new filing was made on behalf of Heard by attorneys at Travelers Commercial Insurance on Monday, November 1, 2022. This video does not aim to propagate for or against anyone. It only reports facts as presented and posits to speculate. The attorneys posit that since Heard was not a resident of the United States when the New York Marine sued her in July 2022 and still doesn't own a home, the court lacks jurisdiction to move ahead with the lawsuit. The filing states that Amber Heard is a United States citizen, but has no domicile in any state and therefore she is stateless. Heard's attorneys at Travelers stated that the continued prosecution of these actions is prejudicial to Heard's defense. They added that they do not want the case to proceed, while Heard is appealing for the dismissal of the verdict. Heard's new lawyers said they may move for a protective order to thwart depositions that New York Marine lawyers want to conduct with the lawyers who represented Heard in Depp's lawsuit and her countersuit. They also wanted a hearing scheduled for Nov. 3 to be rescheduled to Dec. 1 or another date convenient for the court. U.S. District Judge George H. Wu in Los Angeles appeared to reiterate the Nov. 3 hearing by notifying counsel they can appear for it by telephone, but he later rescheduled it to Nov. 21 after granting Heard's request for additional time to respond to the complaint. Amber got slapped with a lawsuit, so it was her response. Declare herself homeless, of course. Yes, really, this isn't the first time she's tried to manipulate something to her advantage.
Love me back. Love me back.
Stop fucking forcing it on your time.
Back. Love me back.
New York Marine lawyers questioned whether Heard truly wasn't a United States resident when they sued her, saying they've received no evidence showing so. They also didn't want their scheduled depositions to be delayed, saying Heard's lawyers didn't mention the jurisdictional question they raised when the depositions were scheduled. Accordingly, New York Marine believes it is appropriate for the depositions scheduled in mid-November to proceed as currently scheduled, according to a scheduling report filed by lawyers for Heard, New York Marine, and Travelers Commercial Insurance Company. Unfortunately for Ms. Heard, under Virginia law, defamation is commonly classified as an intentional tort. To make matters worse, Mr. Depp's complaint exclusively alleged defamation based on common law malice. The Fourth Circuit has reasoned that where a complaint alleges defamation based solely on common law malice, as opposed to actual or New York Times malice, the intentional acts exclusions bar coverage. This is because the former requires ill will or spite, whereas the latter simply requires reckless disregard for the truth. While Travelers' coverage position is not public information, it appears that Travelers recognize the expansive scope of the duty to defend and acknowledge that although Mr. Depp's complaint alleged intentional acts, some of the allegations against Ms. Heard may have been covered. In situations like this, it is common for an insurer to defend its insured while reserving the right to deny coverage or to seek a court order relieving the insurer of its coverage obligations. The first lawsuit was initiated by Travelers against New York Marine, which is part of ProSite Specialty Group. Both are insurers who represented Heard, and Travelers is accusing New York Marine of trying to shirk its responsibility to reimburse Travelers for half of the attorney's fees, costs, and expenses of defending their mutual insured in the Depp case, which left Travelers bearing an inequitable portion of the defense. New York Marine also sought a court order relieving it of all obligations to Ms. Heard. Specifically, New York Marine alleges that California Insurance Code 533 establishes an implied exclusionary clause which, by statute, is read into all insurance policies. Courts have interpreted this implied exclusion to exclude conduct that was intentionally performed with the knowledge that damage was substantially certain to result. However, the statute does not preclude coverage for reckless or grossly negligent conduct. The jury found Ms. Heard liable for intentional defamation, so barring any modification of that finding on appeal, Ms. Heard's conduct is arguably excluded under the statute. Therefore, New York Marine may be able to convince a court to relieve it of its duty to indemnify Ms. Heard for the $8 million jury verdict. So you can see that Amber is in deep waters at this point. She tried to get away by declaring herself homeless, but she couldn't get away with that. So now things are developing at a faster, spicier rate. Court documents obtained by TMZ on Tuesday revealed Heard is now arguing she struck an unconditional deal and promised to pay her defense costs and judgments against her up to $1 million, no matter what. It follows Depp's appeal filing over the court's verdict he must pay $2 million to Heard following their trial. If the insurance company's agreement does promise payout under any circumstances, that's potentially a breach of contract, which is one of the counts under which Heard is suing. Now, a judge will be left to decide exactly who is responsible to pay for what. Even a $1 million insurance policy is only going to scratch the surface of what Amber Heard is currently expected to pay her ex-husband Johnny Depp. The judgment against her is well in excess of $10 million, and that doesn't include the cost of her own legal fees. If Heard ends up having to pay all of it, the insurance policy alone won't do the job. Having said that, if Heard is successful on appeal, we could see the damages award reduced significantly if not eliminated entirely, so fighting for this $1 million is probably worthwhile. The actress was awarded $2 million in damages in her own defamation lawsuit following the appeal by Heard's legal team. Johnny Depp's side filed their own appeal, so that award is also under review. Given the variable speed of the legal system, it's impossible to know when these different battles will be decided. If the defamation appeal is handled first, and it happens to go Heard's way, we could even see this insurance company lawsuit dropped if fighting over the insurance payout becomes moot. What's clear is that Amber Heard is still going to be spending a lot of time in courtrooms for the foreseeable future. So, what do you think will happen with Amber now? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time!